Hello, I'm Matt Hernandez, and this is Book Chat with You. In this and almost every episode, I try to make this be a conversation with you about literature. Today, we're looking at The Snows of Kilimanjaro by Ernest Hemingway. Now, this is a short story, about 22 pages. Well, of course, I kind of said that right. And in this story, a man named Harry, his wife Helen, Harry is dying of gangrene while at the Snows of Kilimanjaro, and he has these flashbacks reflecting on his life. His wife is trying to take care of him. He's not very confident he's going to live. His wife is much more hopeful that the plane is going to come, they're going to be rescued, and they're going to be okay. He's been quite spoiled by her money. He is a writer. We don't know if by trade and whatnot, but I could imagine that this story is a little bit autobiographical of Ernest Hemingway, or at least little parts of his own life, his own perspective. And of course, since part of the story involves hunting, we are getting a little bit of that from the short, happy life of Francis Macomber. So once again, some hunting. And I mean, there's also another book by Ernest Hemingway, The Green Hills of Africa. So quite a bit of hunting inside of some of these stories. And then quite a bit of the main character dying as well. I don't think I'm ruining that in this story because the entire story is just Harry dying. What's he dying of? Gangrene. He cut his knee when they were in Africa taking pictures. And as they were looking at some water buck, his knee got scratched. They missed the picture, and he did not take good care of his knee in case of infection. He didn't think it was going to be infected, and he thought that he took care of it just enough. Now, also what I like about the story is quite a bit of the flashbacks. I mean, as I'm going to reread one of these flashbacks here, it almost seems out of place, and I think there's a beauty in that. And as I look at this story, I mean, there's almost like two different writing styles when it comes to just when the two characters are interacting or when he's kind of in a flashback. When it's a flashback, I mean, I'd have to look again and maybe I'm a bit wrong. There is not like quotation marks in dialogue in the flashbacks. In the flashbacks, it's just written in chunks of paragraphs. Though when it's with him and his wife, there's quite a bit of this banter going back and forth. And even says, he enjoys quarreling and he enjoys fighting. And what does part of that mean? If we were to have a conversation about this story, we would probably focus quite a bit of that conversation on just like, is he a misogynist? What do you think about this when he calls his wife a bitch several times? What do we think of it whenever this woman has had two kids? I believe it says that one of her kids has already passed away and that she's had several other long-term relationships, but he's the one that she wants. And what do you think about him feeling that he is spoiled by her money? I cannot always know if I highlight the best possible parts of a spot with a highlighter, and I go through again and again, because I want to prove to a degree that I've read this, and there's a careful, fine balance between doing super close reading where you find one spot with one sentence and you extrapolate for hours with that, and there's also like a little sense that, of course, having been an ESL teacher for many years before, that I have to explain things just well enough. But there's also in a sense that like I want to treat you smarter than me. And chances are, if you're a reader, you read a lot more than I do, and so there's a fine balance with all those different things. And I lost myself somewhere in thought there. So I think I have enough where I can just start reading some of these various quotes and stuff like that I've kind of highlighted here and kind of just talk about them a little bit, just to try to hopefully get the conversation going with you and stuff. But I think that this story just offers a lot. And I think a lot of it is going to be what do you think of their relationship? Is he rude to her? And to what extent is he rude to her? Does it make sense? I mean, he is dying after all. And the fact that he's dying might give him a small excuse for little bits of the way he's treating his wife and that type of thing. So the way the story basically starts is the marvelous thing about it is it's painless, he said. That's how you know it starts. So the story's starting and he's already dying. I forget the term for that. I just learned it, media res or something. And yeah, that's how the story starts, is that he's already dying. Turning the page to another one. Since the gangrene started in his right leg, he had no pain. On the next page, I suppose what I did was to forget to put iodine on it when I first scratched it. Then I didn't pay any attention to it because I never in fact. Then later, when it got bad, it was probably using that weak carboxylic solution when the other septics ran out that paralyzed the minute blood vessels and started the gangrene. He looked at her. What else? I don't mean that. Now, with these, as I read and stuff like that, sometimes I could feel a little illiterate and stuff like that. And I want to embrace a part of authenticity, though also I do post the audios for these with these podcasts too. And typically they read a lot better than I do. No, not that I'm trying to be great at reading. I'm just trying to find little quotes that are something worth discussing, something to go on a bit more rather than to make a 3-minute podcast, because otherwise these would be quite short. So another part is that they're chatting here and it says, "Where did we stay in Paris?" he asked the woman who was sitting by him in a canvas chair now in Africa. "At the Crillon, or at the Crillon. You know that." "Why do I know that?" "That's where we always stayed." "No, not always." "There and at the Pavilion, Henry Quarter in Saint Germain. You said you loved it there." "Love is a dunghill," said Harry, "and I'm the cock that gets on to crow." If you have to go away," she said, "is it absolutely necessary to kill off everything you leave behind? I mean, do you have to take away everything? Do you have to kill your horse and your wife and burn your saddle and armor?" "Yes," he said. "Your damn money was my armor. My swift and my armor." "Don't." "All right, I'll stop. I don't want to hurt you. It's a bit late now." "All right, then. I'll go on hurting you. It's more amusing. The only other thing I like to do with you, I can't do now." "No, that's not true. You like many things. And everything you wanted to do, I did." "Oh, for Christ's sake, stop bragging, will you?" He looked at her and saw her crying. "Listen," he said, do you think that this is fun? I don't know why I'm doing it. It's trying to kill to keep yourself alive, I imagine. Yeah, what do you think of this whole part? Oh, it continues. "You bitch," he said, "you rich bitch. That's poetry. I'm full of poetry now. Rotten poetry. Rotten poetry." So I'd have to read again if he's already stated that he's a writer. But of course, it's like, oh, he's writing poetry. He's so crass. He's so brazen in his speech. And what do you think about somebody acting like this? I mean, I'd almost wonder if I said some of this around my wife or to my wife inside of such a situation, if she would just threaten to walk away, just threaten to leave. I don't know. I'm only repeating myself in a sense, but I'd love to hear what somebody else would have to think about something like that at that moment. So on a further page, it says he traded it for security and for comfort too. There was no denying that. And for what else? He did not know. She would have bought him anything he wanted. He knew that. She was a damn nice woman too. He would as soon be in bed with her as anyone rather than her, because she was richer, because she was very pleasant and appreciative, because she never made scenes. And now this life that she had built again was coming to a term, because he had not used iodine 2 weeks ago when a thorn had scratched his knee, and they moved forward trying to photograph a herd of water bucks standing, their heads up, peered, while their nostrils searched the air, their ears spread wide to hear the first noises that would send them rushing into the bush. They bolted too before he got the picture. So what do you think of this? To be resentful to somebody who you think has made you lazy. This is something that maybe I could think about myself. And I don't know how strong that I've been in my own life and how capable of everything that I've been. I want to be very confident, because I think that I've gained certain skills to try to make a podcast or something like this. But gosh, man, I can think about that, about what's made me stronger, what's made me weak, and to be resentful in any which way about it at this point in my life. So, now, I'm looking at one of the flashbacks, and the writing style is a little bit different in the flashbacks. As I read this, I mean, there's not any dialogue in it, and it's a lot of description. So when he thinks back in his own mind, in his own perspective, it is not dialogue from what we see. What we see is, well, I guess, description. There was a log house chinked white with mortar on a hill above the lake. There was a bell on a pole by the door to call people in to meals. Behind the house there were fields, and behind the fields was the timber. A line of Lombardy poplars ran from the house to the docks. Other poplars ran along the point. A road went up the hills along the edge of the timber, and along the road he picked blackberries. Then that log house was burned down, and all the guns that had been on the door foot racks above the open fireplace were burned, and afterwards their barrels with the lead melted in the magazines, and the stalks burned away, lay out on the heaps of ashes that were used to make lye for the big iron soap kettles. And if you ask grandfather if you could have them to play with, he said no. You can see they were his guns still, and he never bought any others, nor did he hunt anymore. The house was rebuilt in the same place out of lumber now and painted white, and from its porch you saw the poplars and the lake beyond, but there were never any more guns. The barrels of the guns that had hung on the deer feet on the wall of the log house lay there on the heap of ashes, and you never touched them. On the Black Forest after the war, you rented out a trout stream, and there were two ways to walk it. One down the valley from Triberg, and around the valley road in the shade of the trees that bordered the white road, and then up the side road that went up through the hills, many small farms, the big Schwartz walled houses, until the road across the stream. That was where our fishing began. We just have this memory. He mentions his grandfather in it. He's mentioning very scenery, and it goes on with that. It goes on with that for quite a while, frankly. And yeah, it really does. And it mentions the Versailles troops on the next page. And that's how some of these scenes go. Maybe I should have chosen a different flashback, but just trying to give a picture of that, frankly. I turned to the next page and I highlighted one part of a flashback because it says, no, he had never written about Paris. Not the Paris that he cared about, but what about the rest that he had never written? I mean, I could think about that a little bit too. As I take a class online, I can think about some of these things also because it's like, man, when I was in China, I should have written about China. I should have taken notes when I was there. And to think about that concept just right and how plainly to do part of that, and had I done part of that, and how much more it might have helped. So it says, he had felt death come again. You know, the audio that I'm going to post for this, they did a tremendous job that somebody, when it says he had felt death come again, he sort of whispers it, and it's like a whisper of death itself. And as you hear that, it could almost feel like another character. So somebody sort of editorialized there, and it was nice. You know, the only thing I've never lost is my curiosity, he said to her. You never lost anything. You're the most complete man I've ever known. Christ, he said, how little a woman knows. What is that? Your intuition? Because just then, death had come and rested its head on the foot of the cot, and he could smell its breath. Never believe any of that about a scythe and skull, he told her. It can be two bicycle policemen as easily, or a bird, or it could have a wide snout like a hyena. It's moved up on him now, but it had no shape anymore. It simply occupied space. Tell it to go away. It did not go away, but it moved a little closer. You've got a hell of a breath, he told it. You stinking bastard. And yeah, the story ends there shortly after. And she could hear the hyenas at night. They go to try to rescue him. It's a bit too late. And that's all that could really be said with a lot of this. I like this story, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. I think I asked enough questions while it was going on, and I would love for us to talk about some of that. There could be some lively debate on some of these things in the story, such as what do you think about their love? How affectionate is it? How much do they care about her? How rude do you think he is, and all that stuff? Is it understandable with his condition and with what's happening to him? So with all that said, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye.